My encounter with the General. I met General Johnson by chance. I was on a game app where people join up in teams to play a slot machine game for an online tournament. So it's teams of 4 in a game room, and we team up against other players to try and win so many virtual coins in a certain amount of time. The games itself don't pay you actual money if you win. It's just a fun team game to rank up. In the teams, you can click and chat and click on each username and have an individual chat with each user or a team chat. The General jumped into my private chat window. During these tournament games, there's about a 20-minute window where you're on a virtual break while they total up your team's score and then ads will play in the background window. The General took this time to message me, and he said he enjoyed playing the games with me and he looked forward to getting to know me more better. He said he was 54 years old and he was from Virginia, a widow, and that his wife died from kidney failure and he was raising his 10-year-old daughter named Emma as a single father. He said his wife died 8 years ago. I remember telling him that I was sorry to hear of his wife's passing, but hoped his daughter was well. He asked me where I was from, and I live in New Mexico. I was single and divorced, and I had a grown son who was away in college in Colorado. The conversation was pretty general at the time. He asked my favorite foods, music, hobbies, and asked what I did for work. I work at a restaurant as a general manager. He said that he was a general in the U.S. Army, and he was on deployment to Afghanistan to finish up peacekeeping and clean up from the war, which was an odd way to put things. We chatted during the break, and then I stopped talking to him because the tournament started again. The game itself, you have to click fast, and I closed out the chat window so there wouldn't be any kind of distraction or delay or cause my game to freeze. As silly as it sounds, I took the tournament game seriously because I was playing on a team, and I've played on this site for many years, and my team ranking is really high. I've had chats before with people, but it was always mostly about the game, or we'd poke fun at other teams' losses. I've never been into conversation with someone on the game site. Most people on the site are more into the games. It's hard to explain, but it's like a hardcore group of online gamers, but we are all mostly older people who are into casino games. I continued my tournament, and about 20 minutes or so into it, we did another tally and another ad break. I had an orange bell telling me that I had messages. It was the General. He had written paragraph after paragraph about his life and how he longed for a wife and how he hoped to return home again to Virginia after his deployment, and then he asked for my email address and or phone number, and it was followed by some messages that said, "Hello, where are you? Are you there?" It was written several times before his chat stopped. Our team was behind in points due to him not playing the game, and at this point I told him he has to play on the team or he'll be booted off our group. He apologized to me and told me that he was so struck by my beauty that he forgot to play the game. Mind you, I don't have a profile photo. I laughed and told him to pay attention, and we go back to our final game soon. It took about 12 minutes in between the ad break, and there was a countdown clock on the corner of the screen to let us know when the game would start again. He asked me again for my email in the event that he got booted, and I told him I don't really email often, and I did give him an email address, and he said to add him on Hangouts. Well, I don't use Hangouts, and I told him we need to win this game. The tournament is important, so please pay attention as the clock is nearing our game time. He told me due to the dangerous conditions here, his internet is not great, and again he asked me for my email address, which I already posted in the chat. I told him to take care. The game was starting, and I closed out the chat window. I didn't mind him having my email. I've given my email to a few people in here, just players that I've known, and I had made a couple of friends on the site, so I felt like it was innocent and okay. I went back to the game, which we lost for not having enough points because of him, and I closed out the game. I didn't go back to the chat box. I logged off as I had to get ready for bed, as I had work in the morning. For the next few days I didn't go back to my game, I had a lot of work to do both at home and at my job. I was in the middle of painting the interior of my home and doing a remodel, and remember everything at that time being a total mess in my house. During all this madness of working full time and doing my home remodel, I took a break to check my email. I was actually looking for an order I placed online to check the delivery time when I saw an email from the general. Well, to be fair, 4 emails from the general, all in a row sent a few hours apart from each other. The first email was a long one, introducing himself again, his full name, his hobbies, favorite food, life story. Again, talking about his wife who died and his daughter. He talked about his military career and how currently cleaning up in Afghanistan from the war. The way he wrote it, it made it sound like he was sweeping the streets with a broom, not something a general would do. He told me he would come home soon and wanted to know if I was dating anybody online. I've found this odd, as I've never thought of dating anyone on the internet. My focus was my home and my job. The thought of dating someone, let alone dating someone online who's deployed to another country in the military, would have never crossed my mind. The second email was him asking me my favorite foods, my favorite colors, songs, hobbies, what I did for a living, and if I owned or rented my home, and if I lived alone. I felt like he was conducting a job interview on me. The third email was him asking where I was and what my phone number is and why I wasn't responding. The fourth email I had from him was him asking if I'm okay. What happened to me? He looked for me on the game site. As a side note, this site you can type in someone's username and look them up to see which game room they are in, and it tells you the last time they're logged in. Of course, I hadn't logged in for a few days, and he could see this. I decided to respond to the general. I basically told him I don't check my email every day. I don't play on the game site every day. I work full time and I'm in the process of renovating the interior of my home, so I don't have the time right now as my home is a total disaster and I'm busy. I made it clear I'm not dating anyone online nor interested in dating online. It's not something I ever wanted to do, nor am I interested in actually dating in person. My focus is job and home, and I made that clear. He replied to me that he was delighted to read of my life and how interesting I am. He felt this deep connection to me. He then asked again for my phone number and told me he felt so much joy since we decided to get to know each other more better. Honestly, it was a strange response considering I really didn't tell him anything personal. I think I had more personal conversations with strangers at the grocery store. I didn't respond to him. I had other things to do. I started getting a couple of emails a day from this general. He asked me again where I was and what he did that was so wrong that I've betrayed him. I thought that's a bit dramatic. I replied telling him I work. I don't sit online all day reading email. I told him I don't feel comfortable giving my phone number out, especially to someone I don't know. He replied to me with another long email explaining how he was afraid to love again due to losing his wife and how his daughter is away at boarding school in the UK. It was a special school for children of widowed military men. How he thought it would be a great idea if I started emailing his daughter and introduced myself to her as her new mother. This was absolute insanity at its finest. I told him there would be no way I would be introducing myself to anyone as their new mother and asked him if he was crazy because I have no interest in him or his kid. I didn't receive a reply from that and figured he's moving on. I went back to my games as the days went on and didn't see the general in any of my tournament groups. For good measure, though, I decided to block his username from the game. I'd forgotten all about the general as the weeks went on. Then I received a friend request on FB from General Johnson, same profile picture as in the game group, and I was shocked as I didn't know how he found me. I suppose my name on my email and my email address, they're both linked to my social media. Beware of this when you give out your email. People can find you on social media through little clues like your email or your full name, especially if you have a unique first and last name. He sent me a message which was in my spam folder asking why I stopped talking to him, and he asked if I could just give him a chance to get to know him. Well, I decided to message him back telling him that he was way too forward, and I'm not interested in being a new mother to someone's kid, nor did I want a man, let alone a man online, to date. He then told me that I must be living in misery without a man and must be so lonely and sad. I told him I don't need a man. I'm not lonely. I'm divorced and happy. He informed me that all women must have a man to love and support them, and I told him he's living in the dark ages. I told him to respect my choices to not be interested in him, and if he wants a friend, that's fine, but I am 1,000% not interested in dating him or meeting him. He told me he was okay with that, and he asked me to accept his friend request. I ended up doing so, and he started liking all of my pictures. I generally friend people if they're nice enough. I have about 500 friends, and most are people I don't know in person, but I have a handful of my family and coworkers. He started chatting me again, telling me that he would be returning home from deployment due to his daughter falling ill at boarding school, and how they had to fly his daughter from the UK boarding school, and she was back at a hospital in Virginia. I asked him what was wrong with his daughter, and he said that she might have caught the kidney failure disorder, the same that his wife had before she died. I found this odd as you don't catch a disorder, especially kidney failure. I asked him what was being done to help his daughter, and he told me she was in a special kidney hospital in Virginia and had to take emergency leave so he could come home to be with her. I told him that I would keep his daughter and him in my thoughts and prayers and wished him the best of luck. A nagging feeling in the back of my brain told me that this all sounded so off. A few times the general would message telling me he was filling out his form for his emergency leave. I wished him luck and just went about my life. I didn't spend a ton of time on social media other than my normal morning scroll while eating breakfast. One morning I did just that, and the general sent me a message telling me his daughter has taken a turn for the worst, and she was having trouble, and he couldn't get his leave approval. I asked him what he meant, and he told me that the Army needed $8,000 in advance payment to secure his leave and cover the cost of him being gone for 2 weeks, including his emergency flight to Virginia. I told him, well, that's a lot of money, good luck. He told me his bank account was frozen due to a fraud charge, and he couldn't access his funds. He then asked me if I could borrow him $8,000 to pay for his leave, and he would pay me back when he got home, and that his daughter needed him right away. By now, every red flag was dancing in front of me, and I told the general that I don't have $8,000 and I don't loan money to strangers. That's when he poured his heart out to me, telling me how much he loved me but was scared to tell me, and that his daughter is in danger and he needs to see her at the hospital. He told me if I can't afford the $8,000, then just give him half and he'll find someone else to help come up with the other half. I told him even $4,000 is too much money for me. He then told me to sell my car and get the money. Well, after I got done laughing, I told him he should sell his car or his tank that he drives around the military base, that I'm not responsible for his financial troubles. He told me I was a heartless woman and that it would be my fault if his daughter doesn't get to see her father while she's sick in the hospital. I told him it's his own fault for being irresponsible and not having the money and to ask the military or our U.S. government for a loan, but I'm not Bank of America. I ended up blocking him and thought nothing further other than the general was a joke. A few hours later, I got a call from my sister. She told me that this general voice called her on FB and that she was startled by it and just answered the call. She said this man with a very thick accent that she could hardly understand told her that He was my future husband, and that I had fallen sick and was rushed to the hospital, and that I needed life-saving medication, and it was $2,000, and he asked her to transfer the money to an online bank account to the hospital bookkeeper. Well, my sister at first was worried, thinking he was a friend calling, but then she pieced it together. She asked him which hospital I was at, and he said the City Center Hospital in downtown. My sister knows the town I live in, has been here, knows me very well, and knows there's no such hospital. She told the general off, blocked him, and then she called to tell me what happened. I had to explain to her what all has taken place. Well, the general didn't stop there. He started calling nearly all the people who live in my city that were on my friends list. You know that feature on FB where you can look at a person's friends list and then click where I live and it brings up all the people you are friends with in your city that's listed on your profile? Well, that's what the general did. Just that, and soon enough, I was receiving calls and messages from coworkers and friends in my town and people who knew me in person who said the general called them on FB telling them various stories of how he was my future husband and I was in trouble. He even told my coworker that I'd been arrested and needed bail money and needed it wired to a bank transfer, and he gave her a bank account in New York. This was insane. I ended up doing a post on my profile telling everyone what happened and to block this general right away. Thankfully, no one believed this person, and most blocked him. I'm surprised how far this guy took things, and beware of who you friend online and who you let into your social media life. Not only did he try and victimize my family, friends, and coworkers and neighbors on social media, when I went back to my game site, there was a group team chatter about the general, who had tried getting phone cards and game player cards from different women in chat. The team admin banned him from our tournament groups, and we sent a message to the game site owner about this person. Once the game page owner read our pleas, he was completely banned. I know this won't stop him, and he can easily join with another username, but hopefully it slowed him down if anything, and we raised awareness in our game group about scams. It was amazing to me how he slithered his way into my circle like a snake. I never received any further emails from him, but I do occasionally get emails from random people asking how I am. Even an email from a prize-winning scam saying I was chosen to win $1 million. These are emails I had never gotten before, so I know they're coming from him or friends of his. Before I gave the general my email, I rarely got anything weird like that. My social media. I ended up taking my friend request button off as I had gotten tons of friend requests, and where in the past I would get maybe 1 or 2 a month, I was getting several a day from various so-called military men. It was a flood of scammers coming at me from left and right, with all names, profile photos, and the same old stories. Widow, 1 kid, deployed. Never again will I make this mistake. While I didn't lose any money, I did open myself up for other fakes to have a go at me. Thanks for allowing me to share, and I hope my encounter serves as a warning not to let them in your virtual front door, as they'll continue to enter over and over. We'd like to thank this lady for sharing her story. This happens very often. You innocently give your email address to someone you don't really know and they end up being a scammer, and then they look for you on social media. We always tell someone if you're meeting someone new online and you're chatting with them and they ask for your email address, it's always best to give them an email address that is not linked to you, to your social media, to your online bill pay, to anything, and just use that email address to give out to strangers. If you'd like to share your story, you can find us scammingscammers@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook again under Scamming Cyber Education. Stop on over to our page if you have any questions or you'd like to take a look and learn more about how you can stay safe from online romance scammers like the General. Until next time, take care.